Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to its fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Well, let's get started. Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I hope you've stopped by the website, www.expansionmastery.com, and taken advantage of my awesome sale on my book, Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. If you haven't done so, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Come on. 75% off, $5, you get a signed copy, and I will ship it to your door. Enter the promo code Heaven on Earth, all one word, and you'll get your immediate discount. All the details are available at www.expansionmastery.com. So this is the fourth episode in a 5-part series addressing the 5 potentials and the 5 powers. Remember that these are meditative practices, and I highly encourage you to begin back with number 1 if you haven't gone through these, and start at the beginning. If you truly want to get the most out of it, then go back and go through the practices in the 4 skillful efforts, and then following that were the 4 skillful intentions. Go through those sets and then begin the 5 potentials and 5 powers. That is the official, if there is such a thing, sequence to these sets of practices. That will ensure that you get the greatest possible results. So this 4th episode then will deal with the idea of concentration. Now, concentration is yet another topic that confuses many Westerners. In the West, when people think of concentration, there's almost a sense of hardness or heaviness to it. It's a very forced mental action of great effort. This viewpoint becomes even more distorted due to becoming increasingly stuck in our heads. The more we get stuck in our head, the more effort we believe that it takes. Concentration is often mistakenly thought of as a sheer act of strained willpower. However, this is really not a correct idea of concentration as it pertains to spirituality. Within authentic, correctly transmitted spiritual traditions, concentration is something that is lightly placed. Okay? So in concentration, what we want to do is lightly place our attention, our mental focus, on a single point and allow it to rest there without being distracted or forgetting to hold it there. So in other words, it's uninterrupted. In most cases, the truth of concentration in a spiritual context is the direct opposite of what is commonly and incorrectly perceived. As with mindfulness, which we covered in the previous episode, we must be cautious not to allow our mental filters, which are based in the past, to define new objects and experiences when we're looking at things such as concentration. This is kind of the golden rule with anything in an authentic spiritual system. Most of the processes and methods employed are in an esoteric form, which means they're hidden from plain view. They're not easily accessible. In other words, the ordinary mind cannot really correctly perceive them because the ordinary mind only understands them from an external mental perspective and not something deeper. This is why it's very important to have a sense of being properly initiated into such processes and practices, because without that you can't truly understand what you're trying to do, in which case you cannot even accidentally stumble across the results that you're looking for because you don't even understand what it is you're looking for. So it's very important to have correct, true perception when we engage these practices. Again, not allowing the ordinary mind to just make up whatever definition or make up some practice and think that it's authentic that way. This is why I stress the importance of authenticity in your spiritual practices. The ability to focus and hold that concentration for more than just a few seconds is being considered as some sort of superpower today, because the average attention span of a human being has now dropped a bit below that of a common goldfish, which is a very frightening fact. Having the capacity to focus is a powerful and necessary tool used constantly on the spiritual path. When the mind is properly disciplined and capable of holding focused thought, known as concentration, we're also able to hold an even more steady vibrational state. When the mind is mindless and wandering all over the place, so too does our vibration fluctuate greatly in an unconscious and uncontrolled manner. The same thing is taking place with your emotional state, and even the state of your energetic system for that matter. Things such as your chakras, your personal electromagnetic field that surrounds your body, all of this is greatly impacted by your ability to concentrate or the lack thereof. Concentration serves to supercharge any effort you make within your meditative practices. Mindfulness and concentration are two distinctly different things. Mindfulness is more of a conscious state of being rather than it is a mental process. A lot of times people will perceive it as a mental process, but this is actually incorrect. Concentration, however, is strictly a mental process. Both have important roles to play in our spiritual expansion and aiding in our ability to live a fully engaged life. Both of these, mindfulness and concentration, are extremely powerful. And once developed, mindfulness is more of a state of consciousness, whereas concentration is more of a state of mental discipline and strength. Having a strong mind is important on the spiritual path, as is having the inner strength. Right? We have to develop these sort of strengths. And when we discipline our mind and we have the ability to truly concentrate, our mind becomes stronger and we are able to hold our course on whatever path we are on. Spiritual path, life path, it applies to everything. So let's examine a few ways in which concentration or focused mental effort or awareness can be applied on your spiritual path. The primary goal of concentration is to prevent distraction and forgetfulness, so our practices are not interrupted. Today, with all the ADHD and everything else that's out there and all of the tech, and we have more distractions than ever before. I think we have more distractions at this point than humanity has ever faced throughout its history. And because of that, we must be even more diligent to overcome those distractions. Because if you can't remain in control of your mind and the ability to concentrate, then your mind will be ruled by all of these distractions. And you will accomplish nothing in life on any front. You won't be able to finish anything you start. We're all familiar with those type of people. Maybe we are those type of people, or we have been those type of people. But it's not uncommon, is it? It's unfortunate, but it's not uncommon. Likewise, we have the problem of forgetting. A lot of times when we enter into a meditative practice and we begin the practice, once we start to engage that practice and we're concentrating on a certain process, what tends to happen is that the mind begins to wander and forgets. Kind of just forgets what it's even supposed to be focusing on. Sometimes this happens when people do this blissing out type of thing, right? They just bliss out and they get that really goofy look on their face and they start swaying and it's like they're feeling something special. But when that happens, you've lost control of the mind. You've forgotten the concentration. Okay? And depending on what you're doing, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a good thing. But when you're engaged in a meditative practice, it is not a good thing. When we go beyond the mind in meditation, then that's different. But we want to have the ability not to forget. It's kind of like if you have daily affirmation. How often do you forget that you have the affirmation? How often do you forget to repeat it to yourself? Unless you put up reminders. Concentration kind of serves as a constant reminder, allowing us to hold our focus on a very specific mental process being employed within our practice at the time. So these two problems are the primary things we're facing when developing concentration, is trying to prevent distraction and forgetfulness. These two forms of hindrance keep us from accomplishing our practice and leads us down a path of frustration, ineffectiveness, and ultimately failure. Concentration is initially used to discipline the mind in order so that it can remain focused on a single point, basically the task at hand. In the beginning of all of the mindfulness practices, that manifests as observation. And in the beginning, we know that as observation, and then we start to shift our observation from a mental process to one of consciousness so that we can do something else with the mind at the same time we are observing. And if that's the case, then it is not the mind doing the observing. The observer, the witness, that is consciousness. So it's going to shift to that as we get good with that practice. So in the application of observation practices, we use concentration in order to focus the mind on a single desired task, such as silently repeating a mantra, such as I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. What we want to do is discipline the mind to hold on to that mantra without losing it, without allowing the mind to wander or forget or to be distracted. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And while the mind is focused on the mantra for the breath, the body then coordinates with that through aligning the breathing process through the abdomen with the mantra. And then we're observing the body as it breathes from outside of ourselves. And that is the observer. And then what we're attempting to do is to hold the mind repeating that mantra for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, right? When we can do that, we know our mind is disciplined. If you can do that for 45 minutes to an hour, then there's nothing you can't do with your mind. So while the mind is busy repeating the mantra, your conscious awareness is busy doing its part, observing the whole process without discrimination. And the physical body is busy doing its part, relaxing and breathing in coordination with the mantra. This type of training is essential for activating and developing such things as the body-mind, as well as creating an overall sense of unity within one's own body, mind, and spirit. In meditative practices, concentration is used to keep the mind lightly focused on various tasks, which are dependent upon the intended purpose of the practice. In meditative practices, you may need to keep the mind focused on things like visualization, contemplation, reciting mantra, applying a particular internal process, in the case of things like internal alchemy practices. You could use it for life force manipulation, directing chi, or you could even place it on external things, objects, such as a specific statue. It could be a moon disk. It could be just the flickering candle flame. This form of concentrated focus can be placed on an external object or an internal mental process or even an energetic process, but the same lightly placed attention remains within the concentration. We want to make sure that we just kind of set it down there and allow it to be instead of trying to force it. A lot of people try to force it through will, and it'll give you a headache doing that. It's very detrimental. All you're doing is placing it there. If your mind does wander, then you catch it as soon as you can, and you bring it back, and you set it back down. Okay? That's the idea. If we look at the mind like a spoiled child, we handle it like a spoiled child. If you give a child a timeout, you don't stand there, grab the child by the shoulders or the top of the head and cram them down into the chair. At least I hope not. Come on. Right? Why would you be that hard on yourself? You wouldn't be that hard on a cute little kid. Why would you be that hard on yourself? You shouldn't be. Instead, it's like taking a child and setting them down in the chair, explaining to them that you want them to stay there, think about what they did, right? Form of concentration. And the child just kind of gets up and wanders off after a few minutes. Instead of grabbing them and beating them and slamming them in the chair and shoving them down and tying them to the chair and putting an anvil in their lap or something ridiculous, all you're going to do is gently walk them back over to the chair, set them back down. You don't allow them to have their way because they're being disciplined. So you're disciplining the mind. So if the mind becomes distracted, or you forget, or starts to wander for whatever reason, just notice it as soon as you can, catch it, bring it back, refocus it, and go again. Don't become frustrated. Don't become upset with yourself. Just smile, an internal smile, external smile, both, it doesn't matter. Just stay relaxed. Frustration causes tension, mental tension as well as physical tension, and then it's going to get worse. What we want to do is just relax with it. So every time it wanders, we just bring it back, and we try to keep it on target longer and longer and longer. This is the way we discipline the mind to develop the skill of concentration. So the key is not to force it through sheer willpower. It's going to be a long, difficult, uncomfortable process, and one that most often leads to failure. If instead we just place it and let it be, okay, just hold it there gently, you'll get much farther, much faster. I feel it's interesting to note that the same idea, the same type of concentration is applied in various ways in arts such as Tai Chi, Qigong, various forms of martial arts, and many other movement-based practices. And in this way, it's very easy to see how concentration is going to help you in every facet of your life. Then you can even look at other mental activities, doing your taxes, some form of education, right? Concentration is a very valuable ally. So we use concentration in meditative practices. So let's take a look at the contrast of this if we examine meditation itself. Remember, meditative practices and meditation are different things. So in meditation, the mind must be disciplined enough not to wander in the beginning so we can even meditate. You can't meditate if your mind is continuously wandering. So you can see concentration is another aspect of our foundation. So meditation requires stillness of the mind. And this is where we don't need concentration, but we need to be able to concentrate first in order to put ourselves into a state of meditation and then be able to stop the mind from jumping around from thought to thought to thought. So It's extremely helpful, if not outrightly necessary, to first discipline the mind to hold a single focus, without forgetting, without wandering back into the same old familiar thought processes that serve to keep you firmly in your comfort zone. In meditation, we first train the mind to focus. We discipline it so it can be properly used as a valuable tool. Then we employ it in a wide variety of ways to accomplish countless meditative practices. Once the mind has this ability, we seek to set the mind aside altogether and go beyond the mind to a space of silence and stillness where the mind simply cannot follow. It is within this space of no mind that we glimpse upon our true face, hear our true voice, and once again become one with our true self as pure conscious awareness, what is also sometimes referred to as a soul. Without the power of concentration, our potential is exceedingly limited, not just in our spiritual practices, but in regards to anything we intend to accomplish in life. All right, as you recall, each topic in this 5-part series has 2 parts within it. Both parts are a form of meditative practice, their contemplation. So the first part 1, we will look at the contemplation of the potential of concentration. And then we will look at the contemplation of the power of concentration. So remember, as always, to engage the beginning process, find a comfortable spot, eliminate any distractions, make sure you settle in, take a few deep breaths. I highly recommend, since these are meditative practices, I highly recommend that you first engage a bridge practice from the external world to your internal world, but I'll leave that up to you. So as you sit, just relax. Contemplate on what I'm going to guide you through. We'll begin with the contemplation of the vast potential of focused and centered concentration. Can you understand just how crucial concentration is to accomplish anything and everything you desire? Realize how it is concentration, not medication, that has the potential to free your mind from all the distractions of life, allowing you to focus on your intended goals and practices. Imagine how incredible it would be if you possessed the ability to instantly and easily concentrate on anything you wanted at any time you wanted to do it. Imagine the magic you'd unlock if you possessed the power of confidence, courage, mindfulness, and concentration. Contemplate the potential this could unlock for you, and how freeing yourself from distraction would serve as an amazingly powerful tool for all your spiritual practices and your meditative practices. Understand the great potential of concentration and know that it's meant to be a disciplined, wholesome, focused state of mind where you have the ability to become focused on a single point, a single thing. When this is the case, things such as mental delusion start to fade away. Random, unwholesome thoughts and negative thoughts arising from the ego tend to melt away as well. They cease to exist because you are keeping the mind focused on one point, one thing. And when you do that, the ego can't take over and keep running the same mental pattern. Take a moment to contemplate the potential this would unlock for you in every single facet of your life. Understand the raw potential that is there when you have the combined efforts of confidence, courage, mindfulness, and concentration. Perform this practice for as long as you like, and then reverse the process to reconnect to your external world. Make sure, as usual, that you get up slowly and carefully, adjust to your body and to the room before you stand up. Concentration is filled with potential, and it allows us to glimpse the potential that we have as human beings. I am finding that with the increase of the inflation of the ego and the increase of distractions and all the electromagnetic field interference such as Wi-Fi and the microwave warfare known as 5G technology and everything else that's going on out there, it's more challenging than ever to develop concentration, and it's more critical than ever that we do just that. Okay, let's go into part 2, the power of concentration. You're going to begin the practice the same way that you've been doing all of these. And once you're seated and comfortable, just listen to my voice and contemplate the incredible power that we could unlock when we have the ability to concentrate. Because it's so easy to slip backwards or even be defeated through succumbing to distraction or simply forgetting, because the mind is undisciplined. And it's the power of concentration that allows us to prevent this failure from taking place. I'd like you to try to recall some point of your life where you experienced some successes that you had in either your practices, your ability to get a good grade in education, whatever it is, because you had the ability to remain focused on the task at hand. Surely you can recall some moment where you were locked in and that focus was like laser pointed and you were able to easily and quickly handle the task placed before you. Can you recall what that was like? Can you recall what that felt like? Can you recall these successes? Remember how good it felt to concentrate, how good it felt to succeed? Can you recall what it felt like to be in the zone that way? Unlocking the power of concentration makes everything in life far easier. Contemplate on just how incredibly powerful you would be if you were armed with confidence, courage, mindfulness, and concentration. Is there anything that you wouldn't be capable of accomplishing in life? Take a moment to consider, too, how things such as confidence, courage, mindfulness, and concentration would serve as an unwavering, incredibly impressive foundation by which you would be able to live a fully engaged life. Engage this practice for as long as you like until you understand completely the power at your fingertips. And then reverse the process and rise carefully as always. I strongly encourage you not to downplay the role of concentration. It's far more important than you might imagine right now. It is literally the key to success in spiritual practices and most endeavors in life. That's how powerful this is. And please exercise some of your personal power by helping to support me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that sort of thing. And make sure that you share these podcasts, share the show, get it out there, help others to get authentic practices that they can use to improve the quality of their life and hopefully live a fully engaged life. And make sure to stop by www.expansionmastery.com, grab your signed copy of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life for just $5. Go there, enter the promo code, get your immediate savings, and get a signed copy of the book mailed right to your door. I can't stress the importance of this material enough, and I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for all of your support. And I wish you the best in all of your practices and certainly in your life as you're living a fully engaged life.